This is my ranking of the best bullet heaven games that I've played, based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece to trash, depending on how chaotic the action feels, how satisfying the builds are, and how addictive each run is. Let's get straight into the list. Vampire Survivors is a top-down action roguelike where weapons attack automatically while survival depends on movement, smart upgrades, and building powerful combinations. Defeated enemies drop gems for leveling, new abilities unlock stronger weapon evolutions, and every 30-minute run fills the screen with endless monster waves. After a few runs, I understood why so many players kept recommending it. Instead of worrying about complicated controls, I spent my time weaving through crowds, collecting gems, and planning weapon combinations that could wipe out huge groups in seconds. Watching a simple build grow into a screen-clearing force never stopped being fun, and experimenting with different loadouts always pushed me into another run. A few matches ended in frustration when I lost during the final moments, despite dominating almost everything before that, but those rare defeats never outweighed the excitement. It easily claims a place in my excellent tier. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is a top-down bullet heaven, where a space dwarf mines valuable resources, fights giant alien bugs, upgrades weapons, and completes dangerous objectives across procedurally generated caves. Different classes, evolving gear, and multi-stage dives reward smart builds, while every mission ends with a demanding escape or boss fight. Once I settled into its rhythm, I found myself balancing mining with combat instead of chasing enemies without thinking. Digging through rock for extra resources added another layer that made every decision matter, especially when stronger weapons and upgrades started working together. Watching huge bug swarms disappear under a storm of bullets while racing toward the extraction pod created plenty of tense moments. I also liked trying different classes because each changed the way I approached a run. Losing near the escape could still sting, but restarting never felt like a chore because another rewarding build was waiting. This belongs in my great tier. Brotato features a heavily armed potato fighting through 20 increasingly difficult enemy waves inside a compact arena. Characters have unique strengths. Weapons can be combined into stronger versions, and countless stat upgrades shape each run through smart choices instead of a fixed path. After a couple of runs, I realized the upgrade system was the biggest reason I kept returning. Every level made me think about whether I needed more damage, better defense, faster attacks, or extra resources for future shopping. I also liked experimenting with different weapon combinations because no two builds played exactly the same. Even though the arena never changes, the huge variety of characters, items, and upgrades kept each run fresh enough that I always wanted to see another build come together. The final boss could still create some tense moments, but reaching that point always felt rewarding after careful planning. It finds its place in my great tier. Soulstone Survivors features massive enemy hordes, automatic attacks, hundreds of skills, unique characters, crafted weapons, and several game modes that encourage different strategies. Instead of racing against a timer, progress comes from defeating enough enemies to summon bosses, making every run revolve around careful growth and survival. I really liked having the freedom to build my character without feeling rushed because I could spend more time collecting experience, searching for healing, and planning stronger upgrades. Unlocking new characters and experimenting with different abilities kept every session interesting since each build encouraged a fresh approach. Endless mode also kept tempting me back because I always wanted to see how much stronger my character could become. The repeated voice lines became noticeable after long sessions, but the satisfying progression, huge amount of content, and constant build variety easily outweighed that small issue. I have this sitting in my great tier. The Spell Brigade puts a team of wizards against relentless enemy swarms, where elemental spells, character abilities, optional objectives, and permanent upgrades shape every run. Mixing different elements unlocks stronger magic, while co-op play and friendly fire add another layer of strategy to surviving the growing chaos. After unlocking more spells, I spent plenty of time experimenting with different elemental combinations because each setup could completely change the way a run played out. Chasing optional objectives always felt worthwhile since the extra augmentations made my abilities much stronger. I also liked how new characters encouraged me to rethink my approach instead of relying on the same build every time. Even while playing solo, the action stayed exciting, and I could see why playing with friends would create even more memorable moments. A few objectives became frustrating when surrounded by enemies in tight spaces, but those moments never lasted long enough to outweigh the fun. This secures a spot in my great tier. Yet another Zombie Survivors builds every run around a 3-person squad fighting endless zombie hordes while rescued survivors unlock new team combinations and powerful abilities. Permanent progression, multiple difficulty levels, character classes, and upgrade paths encourage experimenting with different strategies instead of relying on a single approach every time. I enjoyed mixing different survivors because every new teammate changed the way my squad handled massive enemy groups. Pairing heavy firepower with elemental attacks or close-range specialists made each run feel different, and I was always curious to see which combination worked best. The steady progression also kept me invested, since unlocking fresh classes and tougher challenges always gave me another goal to chase. I only wish the individual skill trees offered a little more variety, but the teamwork mechanics added enough depth that I rarely stopped thinking about my next build. This deserves a place in my excellent tier. Nordic Ashes Survivors of Ragnarok brings Norse mythology to life through shattered realms, unique heroes, constellation skill trees, powerful relics, and permanent Yggdrasil upgrades that shape every run. Multiple game modes, character progression, and rewarding synergies encourage experimenting with different strategies while surviving increasingly dangerous enemy waves. I enjoyed how every character felt different because their skill trees pushed me toward fresh builds instead of repeating the same upgrade path. Discovering relic combinations that turned an average run into a powerful one kept me chasing another attempt, and the Norse setting helped the adventure stand apart from similar titles. The long-term progression also made failed runs feel worthwhile since I was always unlocking something useful for the future. The late-game grind eventually became noticeable, and the screen could get overwhelming during the busiest moments, but those issues never outweighed the satisfying progression and build variety. It finishes in my great tier. Jotunnslayer Hordes of Hel blends Norse mythology with action RPG mechanics, allowing different character classes to combine powerful abilities from gods like Thor, Odin, and Loki, while battling dangerous monsters across challenging stages. Permanent upgrades, character progression, and demanding boss fights reward careful planning and smart build choices. I liked that this one expected more from me, instead of letting me overpower everything too quickly. Every run encouraged me to think about how my abilities work together, and resetting character upgrades made it easy to test completely different playstyles without feeling locked into old decisions. The stage objectives also kept me moving with a purpose, instead of simply running in circles waiting for enemies to disappear. I did notice that unlocking stronger abilities felt a little slower than I wanted, and some attack effects looked too similar, but the satisfying challenge and build variety kept me coming back. This finds its place in my good tier. 20 Minutes Till Dawn challenges you to survive relentless enemy waves for 20 minutes while choosing a character, weapon, and randomized upgrades that shape every run. Different heroes, unique weapons, powerful evolutions, and permanent rune upgrades create plenty of ways to build stronger combinations as the battlefield grows more dangerous. After trying several characters, I found myself constantly experimenting because every weapon and ability combination felt surprisingly different. Freezing enemies with one build or covering the screen with fire using another completely changed how I approached each run. I also liked that failed attempts still rewarded progress through new runes and unlocks, so every session felt worthwhile. The dark Lovecraft-inspired style helped the action stand out without making the combat difficult to follow, even when the screen filled with enemies. I only wish there were more arenas to explore, but the satisfying progression and build variety kept bringing me back. I have this sitting in my great tier. Rogue Genesia sends Raj across branching worlds filled with relentless enemy armies, powerful bosses, evolving weapons, and permanent upgrades that strengthen every new attempt. Different character classes, passive cards, campaign-style progression, and an endless survival mode provide plenty of freedom to create wildly different builds throughout each adventure. I liked how every run encouraged me to experiment instead of sticking with the same strategy. Mixing laser beams, bows, magic, or summoning abilities always made me curious about what combination would become the strongest. The campaign structure also helped keep things fresh because choosing different paths made each attempt feel less repetitive than a standard survival run. I also appreciated being able to save my progress during longer sessions without losing everything. Once my upgrades became powerful enough, the challenge started fading more than I wanted, but the addictive progression and huge build variety kept me chasing another run. I'm placing this in my excellent tier. Temtem Swarm reimagines the creature collecting series by letting you battle alongside evolving Temtem, unlock new moves, strengthen each companion through individual skill trees, and face giant boss creatures after surviving intense 20-minute runs. Solo and online co-op play, permanent upgrades, and character-specific progression encourage trying different partners and strategies. I liked how every Temtem felt worth experimenting with because each one had its own strengths and upgrade path instead of feeling like a simple cosmetic change. Unlocking new companions always gave me another reason to keep playing, and evolving them during a run made every victory feel even more rewarding. Playing with different builds also kept the action fresh, since I was always curious to see which abilities work best together. Defending eggs to unlock more Temtem became repetitive after a while, but the satisfying progression and fun creature mechanics kept me interested long after my first few runs. This belongs in my good tier. Army of Ruin sends heroes into colorful battlefields where growing enemy hordes, evolving weapons, powerful trinkets, permanent upgrades, and unlockable characters steadily expand your options with every run. New stages, tougher difficulties, and long-term progression reward careful planning while encouraging different builds instead of repeating the same strategy. I had a great time experimenting with different weapon and trinket combinations because every successful setup made the battlefield explode with colorful attacks. Unlocking stronger upgrades and new characters always gave me another reason to jump into another run, and I liked how the higher difficulties gradually pushed me to improve instead of relying on old habits. The bright visuals also helped every run stand out, especially once my evolved weapons filled the screen with effects. The soundtrack eventually became repetitive during longer sessions, but the satisfying progression and constant unlocks kept me coming back for much more. This lands in my great tier. Achilles Survivor brings ancient Greek mythology into the action with legendary heroes, mythological creatures, permanent progression, character classes, and tactical base building that changes how every battle unfolds. Defensive structures, powerful upgrades, and 4 distinct chapters encourage balancing smart positioning with steady character growth throughout each adventure. I really like the base building because it added something different from the other games on this list. Setting up turrets and traps near choke points let me control enemy movement instead of simply running away from danger the entire time. Unlocking new characters also kept me interested since each one encouraged a different approach, and the Greek mythology setting made every stage much more memorable. I did run into a few technical issues, and the progression system felt familiar rather than groundbreaking, but the polished presentation and tactical gameplay made it easy to keep playing. I'm putting this in my good tier. Entropy Survivors pairs an immortal frog with a giant sword-wielding mech, combining range shooting, melee combat, permanent upgrades, unlockable weapons, and online co-op across enemy-filled worlds. Random perks, different mech classes, and unusual equipment create plenty of opportunities to experiment while surviving non-stop attacks and powerful bosses. I had a lot of fun seeing just how ridiculous each build could become, because the upgrades were anything but ordinary. Watching garbage trucks crash through enemies or giant crates smash crowds never got old, and mixing those with different mech classes encouraged me to keep testing new combinations. Playing solo was already exciting, but teaming up with friends made the action even more chaotic without losing its smooth gameplay. The challenge felt fair since every failed run still made my character stronger through permanent upgrades. It could feel overwhelming during the opening hours with so much happening on screen, but once everything clicked, I kept finding reasons to jump back in. This takes a spot in my great tier. Survivor Mercs combines twin-stick shooting with squad management, letting you recruit mercenaries, customize their abilities, strengthen your headquarters, and decide whether to extract safely or risk everything for greater rewards. Different commander traits, procedurally generated maps, and permanent progression create plenty of opportunities to approach each operation in new ways. I enjoyed having more control over the action because aiming, dodging, and managing my squad made every decision feel important instead of relying only on upgrades. Experimenting with different commander traits and merc combinations always kept me thinking about how to improve my next run, while the extraction mechanic added real tension whenever I had valuable resources to protect. Playing with friends also made the squad mechanics even more enjoyable. I did run into moments where the pacing felt slower than I wanted, and a few technical issues interrupted the experience, but the tactical gameplay offered enough variety to keep me interested. This settles into my good tier. Nautical Survival transforms the formula into a naval adventure where you captain a small boat through dangerous waters, uncover hidden areas, recruit crew members, expand your cargo, upgrade weapons, and travel between islands to manage resources and prepare for the next enemy wave. I loved how different this one felt because I wasn't just thinking about stronger weapons. Deciding whether to fill my cargo with extra crew, powerful equipment, or delivery packages kept every run interesting, and planning when to visit shops added another layer that I hadn't seen in similar games. The limited visibility also created plenty of tense moments, since I never knew what was waiting beyond the edge of my light. Even though it's still in early access and has room to grow, the relaxing atmosphere, clever mechanics, and addictive progression kept pulling me back for another voyage. This sails straight into my masterpiece tier. Tower of Babel Survivors of Chaos combines fast-paced combat with deep loot progression, letting 3 unique classes collect legendary equipment, upgrade skills, strengthen gear through a blacksmith, and climb increasingly dangerous tower floors filled with monsters and challenging bosses. Every run rewards smart decisions, powerful synergies, and careful resource management. I really enjoyed how much freedom the gear system offered because finding a legendary item could completely change the direction of my build. Mixing different skills with stronger equipment kept every run exciting, and I was always tempted to push one floor higher in search of even better rewards. Keeping most of my loot after failed attempts also made progression feel rewarding instead of punishing. The grind became noticeable during longer sessions, and some abilities felt much stronger than others, but the satisfying build variety and addictive loot chase kept me climbing higher. This takes a spot in my great tier. That's everything from my ranking of the best Bullet Heaven games. If you've played any that deserve a place on this list, let me know, because I'm always looking for another addictive run. I'll see you in the next video.